Hey, performer, welcome to the Creatively Performing Arts podcast. Are you ready to get back to your creative passion for singing, acting, and dancing again? Hi, I'm Estelle, beginner voice coach, performer, and Christian creative, and I know how it feels to want to use your God-given gifts, but to stay stuck in fear. The solution is to just get started. So, in this podcast, you'll find beginner singing and performing tips, inspiring interviews with artists, and help to push past your fear so you can finally start performing again. So pause your Broadway playlist and take a vocal rest because the show is starting and you're the star of it. Let's begin. Hey performers, happy Monday. How is it going? Today's episode is going to truly bless and inspire you. I have on the show Mofe of Mofetolu Music, and he's going to share a story with you. I love sharing these stories of creatives and artists and performers, especially performing artists, who have their own unique journey, as everyone does, to becoming who they are in the now. And of course, the journey continues, and there's still so much more, so much further that they have to go. But it's so cool to hear their stories so far. And I really encourage you that if you are a creative, if you are someone who's looking to start singing, you're looking to start writing songs, produce music, acting, doing theater more, whatever it is, listen to these stories and take notes and take note of where they started and their tips and the things that they have to say and to share, because it's going to inspire you. It's going to encourage you along your journey, as well as give you helpful takeaways that you can apply to your own journey so that you can get started and you can live more creatively and by using your creative gifts in the performing arts. And that's what I want to do. That's what we're here for. And so I really hope you enjoy this story. It's what it is. It's another artist sharing their story. I hope it encourages you. That's what I want to do, as well as to give you really helpful, tangible tips. So let me know if that's what you're getting out of this show. If that's what you're seeing, leave a review. I would love to hear some feedback from you. Also, Mofetolu talks a lot about community and collaboration, and so you can join our Facebook group, the Performing Arts Community on Facebook, and get some of that community and collaboration. And you can also share in there what you think of the show. You can share ideas of who you would like to hear on the show. If you have any ideas of people that you think I could interview, come to the Facebook community, come share your thoughts, collaborate. I would love to have you. It's called the Performing Arts Community on Facebook, and the link is in the show notes as always. So before we get into this episode, happy Black History Month. I am grateful to be able to celebrate that in this country as a daughter of Nigerian immigrants, a Black woman who grew up around in predominantly white spaces, to be able to say, happy Black History Month, to be able to know who I am and really love who I am as a Black woman feels very good. And I'm grateful for Black leaders who have come before me, who have raised their voices for justice, for equality and equity. And I know we have a lot further to go, and we're still continuing to seek out and establish justice in this country and in this world. And I pray to God we continue to do that. So happy Black History Month, and let's continue to be allies. If you are not a Black person, be an ally, be an anti-racist. And if you are, congratulations to us. Let's celebrate that this month and always, of course. So without further ado, let's get into an incredible Black artist, actually, Mofe, and hear his story and celebrate that. I'm so excited for you to hear this, okay? So without further ado, let's get into the interview. All right. I'm so excited to be able to chat with you, Mofetolu. How are you doing today?
I am great. I'm highly favored. I am really appreciative of this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yay, you are highly favored, and I'm appreciative of you saying yes, because I think you're like the second, or no, you're the first worship leader, I guess, that I've had on the show, except for Ife. Ife wins, because, but her music, she has like some worship and gospel, but also like Afro, um, like R&B, Afro soul. So you're like the first official worship leader to be on the show. So that's awesome.
Honestly,
And I'm
thank you. Like if I'm the first, I take it. Like even if I'm the
Yeah.
second, like I feel like to be able to
The first
follow
male for
after like
sure.
Star Girl, like if that wins is like Star Girl. So like
I
for me to
know.
like I don't know, now I feel like I feel a lot of pressure now, but I'll try my
No.
best. I'm gonna try breathe. Okay, breathe.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Aoife is popular in this product. I feel like I mention her all the time. I'm literally wearing her merch. I'm wearing
Yeah, like
her
that's really cool merch.
winners
Like I
merch.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, guys, I'll put it in the show notes. But so you can go back and listen to that episode, that interview. But this interview is going to be great. So, Mofe, you're a worship singer, songwriter, and producer too, because you produce your own music
Yeah,
as
that's
well as other
correct. Yep.
people's music. So I'm really excited to get into your story and to talk with you. Like I was saying before, like the show is really about helping people get started. And so hearing other people's journeys of like where they are now versus where they were when they began is really inspiring. And so I would love to hear your story of like, how did you start writing songs and then producing songs? And then like now you have an album,
Hmm.
Unvoiced, that we're going to talk about that everyone should go and listen to.
Hmm.
But where did it all begin? Because everything has a start, right? And yeah, share with everyone where it all began. Like, how did you get into the arts?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I know I kind of have been doing this since I was very little. So my family, a lot of them are either singers or musicians or playing one instrument or another. So it kind of was a part of us growing up. A lot of times going to church, a lot of kids would be in church and you have a sister that sings or a brother that sings or a sister that plays this instrument or a brother that plays that instrument or an uncle and aunt. And so you have people like that are surrounding you. And that's pretty much high level for me, the same story. Like while I was still in elementary school, I had a lot of my family in the choir and my mom got me a keyboard. So I had the interest. I played in the orchestra in like elementary school. A lot of people I played the recorder, and just different things like that. And so just one thing led to another. And my mom saw I really had the interest and she really pushed me in going into like junior high. I started playing more of the piano. I played more of the instrument. I mean, this was back in Nigeria now, and I played a lot of instruments. I just played it and enjoyed it, and would go to choir rehearsal on the weekends and just play and practice, and it just became my thing. So it was just one of those things. The church was really a big environment for my growth and for my progress. It really helped me a lot, and being around other people who either had played much longer or were more skilled, and I could kind of learn from them and just grow on my own. That's really the foundation of everything music for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love how it's like all the people around you, like the community aspect
Hmm.
of it. I talk about this a lot because a lot of people, it's like that's a common thread with people who are in the arts or who start writing music or start, acting in theater. It's like, oh, well, like, like these people inspired me or this person was
Hmm.
doing it. So then this drew me to it. Like for me, my older sister was always like the singer, like she was always singing. So of
Hmm.
course, and we were so close in age. So it's like I have to do it too.
Yep.
And so and she's the one who first did theater, I'm sure, before I did too. And now I like do theater and I sing too. So it's that community aspect is really important. And like
I
noticing the
understand.
people around us who inspire us. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that can like give a clue as to like, oh, maybe I could do this. If this is someone that inspires me in my community, like maybe I could try it. So
I
that's really
agree
cool.
100%. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely true.
Yeah, I love that. So you were doing all of that, elementary school, middle school. So when did you come to America? When were from Nigeria?
I came to America from Nigeria in 2011, so about 11, a little over 11 years ago now.
Okay. Okay. So when you came, were you like fully writing songs at that point, or was it like,
That's a great question.
how did the songwriting come to be?
Trying
Like
to.
after high school, like during
Hmm.
college, was
Hmm.
that like when you were like, oh, I'm gonna be serious about this, like I'm not just messing around with instruments, like I really want to do
Yeah.
something with this?
Um, I don't remember if I ever wrote any songs while I was in high school. I think I probably wrote rap verses, which is funny. Like it's funny to now that I think of it. I think I wrote rap verses when I was back in high school, but I don't think I ever wrote any songs or any things like that. But I did produce beats back then. Were they any good? that's a conversation for another day. But but I did produce beats back then, and I always had ideas. I played the piano, and I played the piano back in high school. I used to play at the school assembly. So it was kind of like a nice thing that I could do, and I played on Sunday when I was in the boarding school at like the church Sunday service and stuff like that. So it was nice to be able to do that, definitely. But I don't remember ever writing any song back in high school. I only remember writing rap. But then when I came to the U.S. for college in 2011, and I went through college. That's when I remember I started writing more songs. I feel like I was in a whole different environment, experiencing life on my own, away from a lot of family. And I could start writing songs about what I was experiencing, what I was going through. And so I started writing songs like expressions, for example, things like that. Some of these songs I wrote like 8 years ago, a really long while ago, just because I could feel those things then, I could relate to it back then. And so that's really when I started writing. I remember in 2013, I can still remember two songs that I've not released right now that I wrote in 2013.
Okay, so we need like the unreleased unreleased
BTS.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, like
But
trust
that's
me,
so
like
cool.
you guys
Yeah.
are gonna laugh if you hear the unreleased versions. Like it's cringeworthy. That's all I'm gonna
No,
say.
I'm sure it's good. I think it's interesting how it's like it's in the transition sometimes from like, high school to college, or moving from one place to another, or like,
Hmm.
meeting different people. Like that's where God can sometimes meet you and like bring
I
out
agree.
something in you that you didn't see before, right? In that
Hmm.
transition period. So, speaking of God, nice little transition there.
Hmm.
So when did your faith like begin to play a role in your creativity, would you say, and like the songs that you're writing in? Because and I mean, yeah, you can dig into that as much as you want, but because, people, you can have, you have your faith and then you write music, or you
Hmm.
have your faith and then you do whatever your creative gifting is. But obviously, because you put out an entire worship album, your faith is like very much a driving factor for how you create. And I just get the sense that like your relationship with God is like the impetus for you realizing that you absolutely need to create and put music out there, and use your creative giftings. And I love to talk about how, God is the creator with a capital C. Like he was the first one to create.
Hmm.
The first five words of the Bible are, in the beginning God created. Wait, in the beginning God, yes, I had to
Yep,
count it
yep,
out.
yep,
Yes, in
yep,
the
yep.
beginning God created, right? So that idea of like God being, knowing God is really going to impact you as a creative person, knowing that you have these giftings, because it's going to make you feel like this more of a deeper purpose, and this responsibility to do something with your giftings.
Hmm.
So when did that come into play for you, and how has that looked, like, writing music while growing in your faith?
Hmm. That's a great question. For me, growing up, I think a lot of people could probably relate to this. I was born into a Christian home. My parents are Christians, and my dad's a pastor, and my mom's this, and my uncle's this, and then you could say all those things like that you want to say, but it never became really, really personal for me until really towards the end of high school. It was towards the end of my high school, it got a lot more personal, and then when I came to the U.S. for college, it became an environment that I personally believe that the Bible says that where sin grew more and more, grace grew more and more. It became a thing that I got to understand more of God's grace when I was on my own. I got to understand more of the sacrifice of what Christ did for me. And till date, I'm still getting to know that more and learn more about it and growing my understanding, because I feel like it's really it's really deep to understand. In the book of Ephesians chapter 3, Paul talks about the length, the width, the depth, the breadth of God's love. It's multidimensional when we think about how much God loves us. And so for me, it was really towards the end of high school and into college that I began to understand more of my faith in Jesus Christ, how much he loves me, and the fact that he died for me. And now I'm choosing to live for him in everything I do. And the big thing that, or the best way I portray that, is to make sure that whatever it is that I am doing, whether it is me writing a worship song or even on my album, I have a love song, for example, actually more than one. Um, I make sure that everything is stemming from my faith. God is the orchestrator of love, for example. So making sure that even in a love song, I'm portraying love the way God sees love, not the way a lot of the times the world sees it as, maybe abusive or just purely only sensual, things like that. But seeing it as a pure, genuine form of love, like God sees it and like He loves us. So that way, trying to portray that in the sounds and the music and trying to communicate that, I think that's the biggest difference for me. Whatever it is I am doing, I want to make sure that people see it and people are like, oh yeah, there is a God factor in this for Him.
I love that. I love that part about like making sure everything is rooted in your faith because, you know, God can speak even through the love song to
Mm-hmm.
someone who maybe hasn't experienced love in that real way or in that like godly way. So, and that might be the way that someone can finally relate to God. So it's like even, in whatever you do, whatever you're creating, whether it's like specifically Christian or faith centered, or even if it may seem secular, but because it's rooted in your
Mm-hmm.
faith, God can still work through that. So I think that's really inspiring for creatives to hear. So thank you for sharing.
You're
For
welcome.
people who are listening and who are like, okay, so you created this album, you came to, you found ways to incorporate, to base the work that you do creatively in your faith. And, I see that you started when you were young and you had community, and that's great, but like how did you like practically do it? Like how do I write a song? Like where do I even begin? Because I love to talk about starting on the show because it can feel so overwhelming when you see
Mm-hmm.
someone who's like, oh my gosh, he has a whole album, or like, oh my gosh, this person has been and like done this thing and did that. But like, how do you just like pick up a pen and a paper and like write your first
Mm-hmm.
chorus or whatever? So if you could give like someone advice as to like songwriting and where to get started for
Mm-hmm.
that, just like on a very practical, basic
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. So for songwriting, there are many ways. I'll give you a few tips on what you can do. For example, when I want to write, I pretty much most times pick up my phone and I open my notes and I start writing. And sometimes it's just throwing things at the wall, see what sticks. That's kind of what it is. Because a lot of times, whenever I'm writing songs, I'm not just writing just because. I'm writing because there's a reason. I'm either feeling it or something happened that I'm trying to talk about, or there's something that was revealed to me that I'm like trying to express through the worship or through the sound and so on. So sometimes I'd be in the middle of maybe like just praying and then I get a song and I'm like, oh, this is nice. And even if you feel like, God is not giving me any songs in my prayer time or anything like that, there are many more ways you could write songs. There's writing sessions, meet up with another creative. I remember back in college, me and a few other folks in the choir back then just came together, said wanted to write a song. And our choir leader back then was just like, hey, let's pick on this specific word. And we're like, you know what, let's see what we can write. And we all just kind of put our heads together and started like putting things together. I've been opportune to like meet with people and they're like, hey, I have this chorus that's just stuck in my head. I don't have a verse or anything else. And we put something else together. So, one way is to just, you want to write about this specific topic and you just keep throwing things to see what sticks and keep tweaking, keep refining it. Another way is to, meet with people and say, okay, I have an idea, but I don't know how to put it together. Let's come and let's write. Like, just have a writing session. Even great musicians still have writing sessions. I still had to write like a few writing sessions earlier this year. Sometimes I'm writing and I'd even reach out to some of my friends, like my Christian friends. I'm like, hey, I'm writing, but just theologically, what do you guys think about this? Does this make sense? And they're like, yeah, study this part of the Bible. And I'm like, thank you guys so much. So I have writing sessions with other people. So some of my other songs, I didn't write them entirely alone. It's still like picking the minds of other great people. So those are some practical ways. If you want to do it on your own, try to see what sticks and have people that you trust, that you look up to, review it for you. And if not, you can have writing sessions with other people. Multiple creative minds come together. You can create something really amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Nowhere in that did I hear anything about you have to create the perfect song. And if it's not perfect, then just forget it. I feel like sometimes we feel that way
That's
Like
the third
we,
point I forgot to mention. I'm just
yeah,
kidding. I'm
yeah,
just
go
kidding.
ahead. I was about
Nah.
to be like, okay, handing over the mic. Yeah, because like I mean, we feel like if we can't be perfect the first time, then what's the point? Or not even, maybe we wouldn't say perfect, but if I can't like get it right, quote
Hmm.
unquote right, whatever that means, or if it feels like it's a struggle, that what I heard you talking about and what I heard you saying really was to just like start messy kind of and just like again throw things at the wall, like try it out, see how a lot of trying it out, and testing the waters, test
Hmm.
it and then like go back to it. And then of course like collaboration was a part of it, which I love that you mentioned that because that's a way to help you get to where you want to be a little bit
Yep.
faster is to work with other people who've done it before or people who haven't done it before and are beginners like you,
Hmm.
and you can put your two beginner minds together and create something
Exactly.
beautiful. So I
I
love that.
agree. And I was
Yeah.
actually gonna say, when
Hmm.
you talked about like trying to be perfect and trying to get it right, honestly, perfection is one of your biggest enemies. And another thing I'm gonna tell you is this: right is relative. Right is always very relative because, in my opinion, the right temperature thermostat setting in the house should be 72 Fahrenheit. Well, no, Estelle thinks it's 73. Everybody thinks about it differently.
Wow.
Right is
Yeah.
always relative. And so whenever you're creating, just understand that not everybody's going to welcome your art. Not everybody's going to love that picture. I'm pretty sure out there are people out there today that just do not like the Mona Lisa. They're just like, what is that? It's not all that. Like, yeah, there's some people that, look at some movies that people are like, this is the greatest movie ever. And there's that one person that's just going to dislike it on YouTube. So right is really relative. So do whatever speaks to you, do what works for you. At the end of the day, you may start by crawling and then you move on to walking, but just do what works for you, what works best. Don't think of it as, yeah, this person thinks it's wrong, so I'm not going to do it. Right is relative.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. When it comes to creative work, it's not, there's not like this, it's not like another discipline where it's like there's a standard of like you have to, 2 + 2 = 4. Like
Hmm.
that's not how it is in the arts. And that's what makes it beautiful.
Yep.
There is so much freedom and space to, create whatever,
Exactly.
whatever is meant to be created by you. So I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. So, how would you say for you? Because you talked about, perfection is the enemy, is the greatest enemy, is what you said, right? So, what are have you faced like perfection? I love to think about like mindset, especially when it relates to faith.
Hmm.
Having a mindset that is rooted in your faith and led by the Spirit. But just in general, like what are the challenges that you face? Because a lot of people, in the arts and the creative space talk about, imposter syndrome and of course like perfection, the perfection trap and all of these different like buzzwords that we hear.
Hmm.
But what have you struggled with? Is it fear? Is it like intimidation, doubt as to like, especially when it came to, you can even speak specifically when it came to putting out Unvoiced, because we're going to talk about the album in a second. So like, did you feel like, mm, if I don't know for sure that it's gonna like pop off, why even bother? Or like,
Hmm.
who's gonna like, did you ever have thoughts of like who's actually gonna listen to things like that? Like that's just really how we are as humans. We have these
Hmm.
doubts, we have these negative voices. So what are those things that you struggled with and how have you been able, I mean, obviously you pushed past it because you put the album out. So
Yeah.
yeah, how have you been able to kind of push past those thoughts?
One that I would say I really struggled with, and to an extent still, battle, is perfection. Perfection is one of the biggest enemies, and I'm grateful for my friends that I have because a lot of times I really need someone to just smack me. I mean that, figuratively. Well, sometimes they'd hit me if I'm really, acting up, but
Oh
that's a
no.
conversation for another day. But it's all good fun because sometimes they're like they have to give me a good shake. Mofe, snap out of it. Like you really have to snap out of it. This is good. And I remember sometimes I'd even do covers and I'm like, I don't want to put that out. I don't like it. I just feel like it could be better. I could have done this and done that. And the truth about it is there are people that would really love your content, that would really eat it up and say that this is just what I needed. I remember after I put out my first single, one of my really good friends sent me a message and said, yo, this is what I need. Like, I just needed to hear this. The message in this is just what I needed to hear. And honestly, if you ask me right now, I could tell you like three things that are probably imperfect about that song just off the top of my head. And people are out there saying that I just needed to hear this. So thank you for releasing this. And it makes you realize that perfection, if you're striving for it has to be perfect and get it right and dot all the I's and cross all the T's, you then realize that you're depriving people of their blessing. You're not even moving forward because you're going to be stuck at that same point. And so I started realizing that it just gets to a point you just have to be willing to let it go. You just have to be willing to let it go, because there is beauty in imperfection too. And when I say beauty in imperfection, I'm saying in your view of imperfection, there is beauty there. Because at the end of the day, everybody is going to look at it from a different angle. Some people are going to look at it head on. Some people are going to look at it from the top to bottom, some from left to right. At the end of the day, perspective is really what's going to change for every single person. And so that perfection one, God is helping me. God is helping me because I've struggled sometimes. I finish and I mean, the last song we just released, there were some parts of it I was like, oh, should I record this again? I was like, you know what? Just let it go. It is fine. Like my friends listened to it and like they were like, yo, this is great. I remember when I sent it to Ife Wins because she featured on it and she listened to it before we released it and she was like, yo, literally just goosebumps. And I was like, but I want to fix this on. And she was like, yo, bro, this is dope. And so when you begin to think about that, people out there believe in what you're doing, but then you start doubting yourself. It's not a good thing because you begin to think that you're not good enough. And the truth about it is every single person out there, we are all gifted and talented. So believe in yourself and don't wait for perfection. And that's something that, as I'm saying right now to everybody listening, I'm speaking to myself too.
Yeah, that's really good. Yes, I completely understand. But what you said is really powerful, because you kind of turned it outside of yourself to think about the people that are going to hear your music and going to be inspired by your music. And you said, you don't want, keeping that gift to yourself would be depriving people of their blessing. And when you think about like what could be if you let go of that perfectionism and you just put it out there, when you think about what could be and how people could be blessed, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of thinking of what's the worst that could happen, like the best that could happen, which
Exactly.
would truly will happen, which is that people will be inspired, people will, even if it's just one person, will be encouraged. And it's not worth, like, you have to ask yourself, is holding on to my perfection and my fear, is it worth potentially or absolutely depriving people of the blessing that they could have if I let it go?
Mm-hmm.
So once you ask yourself and sit with that question and like genuinely take it into consideration, I feel like exactly what you said, you can decide to let it go. Like you chose, I have to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it goes back to community. You had people who were supporting you and stuff like that. And that helped a lot. So I love that. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Unvoiced, what was the impetus behind, why you wanted to put why Unvoiced, and what do you hope that people listening, what do you hope that people who listen, which they definitely should, um, what do you hope that they get from it? What do you hope that they experience while they're listening?
Mm-hmm.
What are your hopes for this album?
Yep. Unvoiced, the main idea why I chose the name Unvoiced is just because think about things that you've never said before, but now you're really trying your best to convey that through music. That's really the whole idea behind Unvoiced. Like I don't have a voice to actually say this to you guys in person, to your face, but these are the things that I feel. So I'm gonna use music to express myself. That's the high level idea behind Unvoiced. Um, and then when I when people listen to it, the biggest takeaway for me that I want them to have is, wow, he's going through these things. He feels these things, and I'm not alone. I want people to listen to it and understand that this is someone who who's sometimes struggled with sadness just because he looks at things that happen around him, which is what the song like Expressions or I Wish talks about. And when they listen to a song like I Love You, I Remember, which the second one featured my wife. Like, I want them to listen to that and be like, oh yeah, this is like a love song that's pure and genuine, that, I can relate with this. This is love. When they listen to a song like praise him, for example, they could be like, yeah, this is kind of like youthful, and there's some trap vibes to it, and I could be hip and still be a Christian. Like, I could still dance, and and jump up and be energetic, and different things like that. So it kind of expresses the way we all feel, because sometimes we feel like, what, I'm just alone, or a song like Tell Me What to Do, to understand that we struggle with addictions or sin sometimes, and it feels like, yeah, I'm the only person in the whole world that's ever struggled with this. But no, you're not. There are other people. A lot of people just don't always speak up. But I want you to know that you're not alone in whatever it is that you're feeling. Someone else can feel that too, or has felt that too. And most importantly, the Bible tells us that we have a high priest, Jesus Christ, who has felt everything that we feel. But the only difference was that through it all, he didn't sin. And so understanding that, I want people to go back and say, you know what, I'm not alone in this feeling. Like, I have Christ Jesus that has felt all these things. And I have other brethren who are Christians that sometimes they go through these things. And so we can actually encourage and support one another. That's the main goal, or what I want people to take away from the music.
That's so beautiful and so powerful. I love how you described Unvoiced and like expressing the things that are hard to say. I love that. And
Thank you.
that's like the humanity behind art, is that it makes you realize that you're not alone, because art expresses like life, and shows us humanity, and shows ourselves, like mirrors ourselves to us, so that we can realize that we're not alone, that other people are dealing with this too, other people are finding freedom too, other people are expressing themselves too. And so thank you for putting that
Thank
out.
you.
That's powerful, that's beautiful. And I hope everyone listening to this goes and listens to the album. We're going to make
Yes.
sure we say all the links, and we'll put it all in the show notes in a second. But just to wrap up, my last question that I ask everyone, and my favorite question, is for the person who's listening, who wants to be a songwriter, wants to produce music, wants to be a musician or worship leader, or wants to be an actor or a dancer, or wants to do something creative, and they just are struggling to get started, or they want to really be inspired and really take action. What would you, if you could offer them like one piece of advice, what would you say to the artist who's listening, the aspiring artist who's listening, and who needs to really get started using their creative God-given gifts?
Mm, I'd say consistency. That's what I'd say. The reason why I say that is because, honestly, and I say this with every good intention, it's not always about how skilled you are. It's not always about how skilled you are. It is sometimes more about how consistent you are. Um, and an example in the Bible, Bartimaeus, he says, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Everybody disregards him. He keeps shouting. He was consistent until Jesus Christ turns around and says, okay, what do you want me to do for you? Sometimes you really just have to be consistent and keep pushing. It's kind of like the other parable that Jesus Christ told about someone who came to knock and asking for something for a neighbor. And the person keeps not, like, if you come to my house right now and you keep pushing the doorbell, it's going to get to a point I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to answer you because you're really disturbing me, right? And so consistency for a creative, you have to be willing to not listen to the mockers, because there are people that are going to probably tell you like, dude, what was that song? Like, you were pitchy. Like, you don't even like, I don't like the beat. Like, it's not that great. Like, I've heard better. Like, you have to be willing to tune those people out, and not listen to them, and keep being consistent. On days where you don't feel like showing up, those are days that you really have to pick yourself up and show up. So you have to be consistent. And if it means having people, not if it means having people by your side that can help you when you're not able to be consistent. There are days I don't really want to create, and I'm like, okay, I don't feel up to it, but my friends are like, hey, Mofe, we need to get this done by tomorrow. And I'm like, I really don't want to do it. And they're like, well, you don't have a choice. Like, you really, really have to do it. And that really helps me, because these people are keeping me in check. So make sure you're consistent. Put checks in places that would help you be consistent. Because when you do something consistently over a few months, over a few years, there is no way you're not going to get better. there is no way you're not going to reach people. You just have to be consistent.
Yeah, that is perfect. Great advice. And something that we all need a reminder for, literally myself included, like we all need that reminder. So thank you. It's so true. Tell everyone where they can listen to your music, to your songs, to your album Unvoiced, and anywhere that they can connect with you, because everyone needs to get connected with you and follow along with your journey. Because I know God is just going to do greater and more beautiful things. So
Amen. Thank you so much. So anywhere you want to check me out or listen to me, it's pretty much Mofetolu everywhere. So Mofetolu. On Instagram, it's Mofetolu. On Twitter, it's Mofetolu. On Facebook, it's Mofetolu. On YouTube, it's Mofetolu. I'm really making it easy for you all. So what's your excuse? Why are you not following me right now? Why are you not picking up your phone, going to Instagram and following Mofetolu, or going to YouTube and checking out a song, or going to listen to the latest drop featuring Ifeanyi and my bro? Like, why are you not doing that right now? Because like Mofetolu, that's pretty much it. Everywhere you go, Spotify, same thing. Apple Music, same thing. So seriously, like, send me a tweet and tell me what your excuse is. All right, mic drop.
Yeah, you got everyone. You've been challenged. You've been dared. All right, no problem. I'll put it all in the show notes below so everyone can go check you out and listen to everything. And I have to check out your YouTube actually, because I haven't seen that. So
thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. This was great.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. God bless you. I know that you're going to do more things, like more beautiful things, incredible things. And yeah, we can't wait to see it. So
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Creatively Performing Arts Podcast. I hope you feel encouraged, inspired, and truly impacted by today's episode. And if you can think of one person who would love this show, please share this episode with a friend. And if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and rating, it would take 30 seconds and it would truly immensely help this show grow and reach more people who need to use their creative gifts as well. And finally, go to the Performing Arts community on Facebook and join this online free community for you to interact with and connect with other artists. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much, and I will talk to you later.